In this episode, I talked to Tony Nguyen about what really happened at Western States this year. And it's all about Leadville in Tales of the Trail, so stay tuned.
Welcome to Martha Runs the World, a podcast with a new take on running, fitness, and all things health-oriented. I'm Martha Hughes, your host, and each week I present a new topic that is of interest to all runners.
Hello, and welcome to episode 136. My guest today is Tony Nguyen. He's been on the show before. He is one of the very few second guesters. This is a really special episode. Western States. If you're a runner, you probably know what Western States is all about. Western States is to the ultra running community what Boston is to the road running community. But it's even harder to get in. You can't start raising money to get into Western States. You can't say, I'll just raise $5,000 for this charity and get into Western States. You can't do a virtual race and get into Western States like you can Boston this year. No, you can't do that. Only 2% of those who put in, who have one entry, it's 2% of those get in. Thousands of people put in their tickets to get into Western States, and only 2% of them get in. They only allow 300 runners in, and thousands try every year to get in. The qualification to get into Western States is to run a 100-mile race, I think. So I think sometimes it's 100K, but it is a tough race. You have to do at least one tough race in the calendar year to get into Western States. I think there's other ones too, but that's the main qualification. Tony got in because he had been a volunteer at one of the aid stations, and they drew for the person to win at the aid station, and that's how he got in. But he also has been running a lot of races, and he's just a great runner. I think he's fast. He says he's a back of the packer. To me, he's a rabbit, so I think he's very fast. But he has a lot to say today. Because of that, this episode is the longest that the show has ever done. It is longer than usual. He has a lot to say, and I wanted him to say all that he needed to say. It was important that he got it all out, and it was important that you hear everything he had to say. I didn't want to cut it. I didn't want to cut anything he had to say or not have him have a chance to speak out. I also, when I started asking him questions, I didn't want to have any fluffy filler stuff. So how are you? How are things going? That kind of stuff. That wasn't important. It was important to talk about Western States and why I wanted him on the show. And really, the show was meant to be about do not finishers, DNFers. And to have him talk about his DNF at Western States is really the most powerful way that I could think of. Been there. We've all felt that pain. Maybe not as sharp. Maybe we didn't train as hard as he did for Western States. Maybe we didn't look towards a race as much as he did. But we have all, if you've raced enough, if you run long enough, if you've done as many races, you will eventually get a DNF. And it stings. It hurts. You feel the pain. But eventually you move on and you think about it, and then you can go on to other races and you get over it. You still have a little tinge of hurt, but life goes on and other races come up. And in Tales of the Trail this week, I talk about Leadville 100, which happened last week, and I give a little brief epilogue of the winners of the male and female runners. But now, here is Tony all about Western States 2021.
Well, you welcome to the program for his second appearance, super runner Tony Nguyen. Hi, Tony. How are you?
Hi, I'm back.
He's back. Yay. We're so happy you're back. Thank you very much for joining me.
Yeah.
I wanted to wait a little bit, but I'm going to ask the big question. I did want to find out what happened at this year's Western States.
Yeah, definitely. I can definitely talk about that. Is that how we're opening the show?
Yeah, might as well. I mean, might as well not hide the big question. Might as well answer it right up front, right?
Well, so Western States, the grandest stage for ultra runners. It's like the Super Bowl, like the Olympics. It's our Olympics, And I had been working so hard the past 9 years to qualify, to get in and everything. And I finally got my chance. I got in for, I got in for 2020. And then this little pandemic happened and it got pushed to 2021, but gave me more opportunities to train harder and smarter. And that's what I did. And I got into Western States and super excited, super nervous. It was just like all of the above, every emotion you can possibly have, because this is Western States and it's all eyes are on every runner, So, and this year they made it so that you can follow along, like very closely. There's like the, sort of like what they did with Cocodona. My brain is not working right now. What is the word for that? Like
it's like tracking with the.
Thank you. my brain is not working. I'm trying to think of the word. Like Cocodona. They had that thing where you can follow the dot along the. Okay. So Western States this year, it was just like one big question mark because we didn't know if it was going to happen. We didn't know if it was going to happen, what the COVID restrictions would be. Everything was up in the air, and we literally didn't know until like 2-3 weeks before that it was going to happen without, too many changes, because it was just like one big question mark. So for me, I came into Western States feeling cautiously optimistic because I had been training so hard. And not just training hard, but training smart. I had lost a good amount of weight. I was in a good place weight-wise. I was getting fatter. I'm sorry, not fatter, faster. I was getting faster. I told you my mind is it's somewhere else right now. I'm not. So I got faster. I got stronger on my climbs. I was becoming a well-rounded trail runner. And I truly believed that I had a legitimate shot at finishing Western States. So what happened was that I came into Western States feeling good. And the first 4 miles or 3.5 miles of Western States is basically one big giant climb up to the escarpment. It's like 2,500 feet of elevation gain in the first 3.5 to 4 miles. And what a way to start out a race, So and what makes Western States so difficult is that you got all these elements in this race. First of all, you start off in high country, so it's like you basically start off at 6,000 feet elevation gain and climb up to 8,000. And then you have very, very strict cutoffs. Now they're much stricter in the beginning, and then they loosen up a little as you go along. But you basically have to get to the first 30 miles at Robinson Flat. The final cutoff is 9 hours. Now, I can run a 50K in my trail 50K times have ranged anywhere between 7 hours to 9 hours. So I can run a trail 50K in that time limit. So I knew mathematically I could do it. That was never a concern for me in my head. I knew all along that I would be chasing cutoffs along the way, throughout the whole race. But I really wasn't that concerned because I know that in the research that I've done, people always told me, people who have run the race, that even if you fall a little bit behind in the beginning, you can make up the time later because the the 13 miles after you reach that first hard cutoff is basically one big runnable downhill, and you can make up the time then before Devil's Thumb sneaks up on you. And Devil's Thumb is just this crazy climb in like 100+ degree heat and, exposed and everything. But anyway, so for me, when I reached the first, on race day, it's just like all this excitement, like the day before Western States, it's like the who's who of ultra running. Everyone is there. And I was like this little fish in this big giant lake of like big prominent ultra runners, past and present, and I was just like, oh my God, it's I guess the best way to kind of describe it to your listeners who may not know what it's like in the ultra running world. It's kind of like if you are an actor or actress who have just like broken onto the Hollywood scene, and you get nominated for an Academy Award. And then you go to the Academy Awards, you're a newcomer, you're not established yet, but, you just end up in a movie where you did such a great job and you get this nomination, and you walk into the Academy Awards, like walk down the red carpet, and oh my God, Meryl Streep is standing right next to you. Oh, Brad Pitt is over there. Oh my God, it's Steven Spielberg. That's what Western States is like. I was out there with all these like big names. Gordy, Jim Walmsley, Casey, everybody, and it was just kind of like, whoa, this is just crazy. So it was like, you have kind of like the excitement of it all, but also the stress of it all, because it's, all eyes are on every runner, you can't escape it, and all your friends are following you because they made it even easier to follow you this year. Mm-hmm. So on race day, I showed up, and race starts at 5 a.m. And I got there, at 4:30 a.m. And I was just like shockingly calm, because, I was just like, all right, I just methodically just had to think, this is what I have to do, just get through the first 4 miles, and then you run through high country and everything will be fine. You just got to make it to Robinson Flat. Before, in that 9-hour frame, just get there before 1 p.m. And then you got this, you've trained hard. So I got to, when they did the countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then we were off, and we all climbed the first 4 miles. And when I got to the top, it was just an incredible feeling, because there's a lot of spectators up there, and a lot of my friends, my ultra running teammates were up there cheering you on. And I remember when I got to the top, and I saw all my teammates were out there, my friends, other people, everyone's cheering for all the runners, and every runner were basically treated like a rock star. And so when I got to the top of the escarpment, I just kind of like looked at everyone, and it felt like I was in heaven, not because I had just died or anything like that, but because it was such a surreal, happy feeling. I felt like I was amongst angels, like all the spectators and the supporters were like the angels helping me, up the escarpment, and, we're like, 8,000 feet up. So it felt like we were in heaven,
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then I was like, at that point, I said to myself, I'm feeling good. I felt great. So I just kept plugging along, doing my own thing. I'm a back of the pack guy, but I just kept telling myself, just be calm, just keep moving, So where it went kind of, where it went, I'm hesitant to say that it went wrong, because nothing really truly went wrong. What happened for me was that I was just not, I never found my footing up in the high country. Mm-hmm. Now, the thing is that Western states, they have training runs that you can do on the course, but the training runs only cover 70% of the course. It's hard to do the first 30 miles of Western states because the first 4 miles is on a ski slope. So, ski season, basically happens from like October through June, So there's no accessibility to get up there. In fact, this is kind of funny. A buddy of mine and I, my buddy who was supposed to pace me from the Rucky Chucky to the finish, he and I went for a training run up on the Western States trails. And the first time we went was at the beginning of June, and there was still skiing going on. I mean, there was still snow up there and there was still skiing going on. So we were just like, okay, just play dumb, just show up and just go for a run casually. So here we are. Like snow, like we're like trying to run through the snow, and then like the ski police, the ski patrol, skied over to us like, what the heck are you guys doing? Oh, God. And my buddy says, oh yeah, my buddy's here training for Western States. It's like, you can't be here. There's skiers everywhere. Oh my God. We got kicked off the mountain. It was just so embarrassing. But I was just like, all right, well, like these, what is that one phrase? It's like, it's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is for permission.
Yes. What is it? It's easier to beg for forgiveness than ask for permission or something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
So that's what we did. And so we obviously we retreated. So we went up again the next 3 weeks later, like maybe 2 weeks before Western States. I don't remember exactly which weekend it was, but we were able to do that training run up the escarpment and then do a little bit more up there in high country. But the thing is that the first 30 miles of Western States is not accessible. Mm. So you can't really just get out there and do a training run. It's just not, easily accessible. And due to permits and things like that, it might even be illegal, to go up there in certain times of the year. I don't know the legality behind all that, but I would imagine that is the case. Because the Western States board has created like a weekend. Memorial Day weekend is the 3 training runs where you basically do miles 30 through 30 to 62 the first day. Mm. The second day you do like 62 to like 80, and then the third day you do 80 to like 100. So you kind of get you can do the training runs and get a feel for what the course is like. But basically, it's really only 70% of the race. But because I went up with my buddy and was able to do at least the first 6 miles of Western States, I basically basically coming into Western States, I had done, I was familiar with, God, my math is going out the window. Let's see, 70 plus 6 is 76. There you go. So I had I was very familiar with the 76 miles of Western States. So the other 24 miles, I wasn't, I never stepped foot on it. But, I had done all my research. I read all the race reports that ultra runners have written who have run Western States. I checked out all the videos on YouTube and I talked to people, and everyone. It was hands down. Everyone. The general consensus was that the first 30 miles of Western States is like a sucker punch. You don't really know what hit you until you actually reach Robinson Flat. So you have to be on your toes. You have to think on your toes. So for me, what happened was that I never found my footing up in high country. It's very, very technical up in high country. So there are loose rocks everywhere. Some of these rocks are the size of golf balls, and some are the size of tennis balls, and some even a little bit larger, the size of grapefruits, So, fortunately for me this year, or maybe it's unfortunate, but there was no snow. In hindsight, I'm thinking maybe snow would have been better because it would like cover up all the loose rocks, and I could have just, kind of slide my way through the first 30 miles. Maybe, but
see you sliding past everyone. Whee!
Yeah, why not? So, but because there was no snow, and I do have to say that the altitude was a non-issue for me. I was feeling I felt fine. I had acclimated myself to the altitude, so that was not an issue. And weather at that point was not an issue at all because it was still early in the morning. It was like 7, 8 a.m. and it hadn't gotten hot just yet.
Okay.
So those things were non-issue to me. I just could not find my footing. So as a result, I became very tentative, and I was going a little bit slower than I should have because a few months prior to us, like in January, I ran a race called Cold Water Rumble, and that's located in Arizona. It's from the Aravaipa guys, the guys who put on Javelina and Cocodona and Black Canyon. So Cold Water Rumble is a 100 miler in the desert of Arizona, and that course is super technical. It's just like the whole course, all 100 miles of it is loose rocks and more rocks. And when I ran that race, I tripped on a rock at mile 18 and fell forward and hit my face, face planted on a rock, like on a boulder, like a big rock. And to my shock, my teeth didn't go flying out. I swear to God, I thought my teeth were going to fly out, But then I said to myself, I just got to keep moving. So I ended up going another 60 miles and ended up DNFing at mile 80. But, I was in so much pain. My face was throbbing the whole time.
Man.
And it's really funny because ultra runners are, they remember that analogy I told you earlier about being at the Academy Awards?
Yes.
It's no different for ultra runners are the best performers ever. Best
true.
Actors, best actresses.
Oh my God,
because
it's so true.
When you are injured, or when you're sick and injured, the last thing you want to happen is to get pulled from the race by medical or by the RD or whoever. So here I am like bleeding, and I'm just like, I got like this gash on my face and I'm kind of like, I look like I'm, drunk because I'm just like disoriented, but I get into the aid station like, hey, how you doing? I mean, seriously, I deserve the Best Actor award for my performance at Cold Water Rumble because I was amazing. I was like Shakespearean. I was like, it was just incredible. That performance, it's like method acting to like from the heart, so, but anyway, I digress.
Something about aid stations though, that just brightens you up. You could be in the worst pain and you get to the aid station and it's a little better. I remember when I did, the last time, not last year because they didn't have it, but the year before last, when Coastal Trail Runs did San Francisco day one, so there on New Year's, and I really, really wanted to do my first go as far as I could and hopefully do a first 50 miler. I didn't because my hip pain was just so much. I wound up getting 28 miles, which is as far as I could go until I was in tears and I couldn't run anymore. But like after like 24 or 25 miles, our friend Michael was telling me, Martha,
oh, you mean that hippie?
Well, my hip was hurting so bad.
No. Michael Tatham, the hippie.
Yeah, the hippie. Yeah.
The hippie.
Yeah, the hippie. Yeah, the hippie. And he was saying, Martha, you got to stop. You can't. And I was walking and I wasn't even running it. Saying walking. He said, Martha, you got to stop. You can't do this anymore. I said, no, I have to keep going. I have to keep going. Well, I wound up getting 4 more miles in, and then I stopped. But I wasn't going to stop because someone told me to. Please,
Right?
I was going to stop on my terms.
Yeah, I get it. So
Yep.
for me, it was like the reason I told that Coldwater Rumble story is because I was getting flashbacks of Coldwater Rumble when I was running up at High Country at Western States, and that's why I became tentative, because I started to kind of fear falling on my face again, or worse, like falling in such a way where I severely injure myself.
Yeah.
So as a result, I was going slower than I should have. And I kept looking at my watch, and then I was realizing that if I didn't pick up the pace, I was going to not make it. And the other thing that I kind of made a rookie mistake at Western States that I'm still kind of kicking myself over, because I let the clock kind of dictate my my sanity. Because what happened was that the first aid station is at mile 10.2, I believe it is. I don't have my aid station chart in front of me, so I don't exactly remember the numbers, but I believe it's 10.2, and it's Red Star. And then the second aid station is mile 15.8. Lion Ridge is the second one. Or is Lion Ridge the first one? No, I think Red Star is the first one and Lion Ridge is the second one. So when I got into Red Star, I had fallen a little bit behind my projection. But then I said to myself, okay, don't worry about it, because the first 4 miles were straight uphill, and I did better in that section than I thought I would. So just calm down. Everything will be fine. So the problem was that my Garmin said I was at mile 10.8. So basically I was like, oh shoot. Either I went off course, or maybe the aid station is not put in the right place. Maybe my Garmin is off. I didn't know what was going on, but I was basically half a mile ahead, according to my watch. But you don't want to be like half a mile ahead when you're chasing cutoffs, when there's like strict cutoffs at each aid station.
Oh.
So in my mind, psychologically, I think I got to Red Star. I think the cutoff was at the final cutoff is at 10:30 for Red Star and for Lion Ridge, and I got to the Lion Ridge at 10:15. This is the mile 15.8 aid station. I got there at 10:15. The final cutoff is 10:30. So in my mind, I was like, and by that time, my Garmin had said I was like 0.8 miles ahead. So I was basically on my watch. It said I was about a mile ahead. So psychologically, I kept telling myself, shoot, it's really only like 9:45. But my watch is saying it's 10:15. And so it got to me. It just got to my head. And so I was like, okay, try to stay calm and just keep moving. Just keep moving, because the cutoffs are just cutoffs. The final cutoff is the one that I have to worry about. And that's the one that's at Robinson Flat. So just keep moving, keep moving. But then my mind, I kept, I didn't have a meltdown or anything like that per se, but in my mind, I kept like calculating. And I just, and I knew I had the elevation chart, on my hydration pad. So I knew where the next hill was going to be and stuff. So I was like, okay, just pick it up on the downhill and just power hike as best you can. And it was hard because, there were sections of the first 30 miles that were very runnable. So I ran where I could. But then there were sections that were not so runnable. So what I found myself kind of walking downhill, and that was a problem. I was like,
Yeah.
this is where I need to make up time,
Yeah.
but I'm walking downhill because I don't want a cold water rumble,
You let your fear
reunion.
get to you. Yeah.
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 So it got to me. So I, and then on top of all that, it's also like the weight of, Western states, like the biggest, because I knew everybody was following me, all my friends and everyone's following everybody. So I was like, okay, just keep going, just keep going. And I said to myself, okay, just run down the hill, just run down the hill. So I was running down this hill, probably at about mile 20, 21, something like that, or maybe before, like maybe 19 or something like that. And I stepped on a loose rock. And in the process of trying to get my balance, I didn't fall. So I didn't pull a cold water rumble, thank God. But then in the process of trying to get my balance, I pulled something in my inner thigh. And I was like, oh, And so I said, okay, just stay calm. Just stretch it out. Just stretch it out. Walk it off. Stretch it out. Walk it off. And then 5-6 minutes, I was like, okay, let's try running now. So I continued to run. And then within the first couple of feet, it's like, tweaked up on me again. And then I was like, no, just keep, and I was like, I did again. And then it tweaked again. And I was like, okay, the only thing I can do now is just power hike it as best as I can. The next aid station is only like 3.5 miles away. I'm still within the cutoff, that final cutoff. And I kept saying to myself, mathematically, it's doable. Just get to Duncan Canyon. And then from Duncan Canyon to Robbins Flat, it's a 10K. It's going to be a tough 10K. There's a big climb, but just keep moving, because all I need to do was to get to Robinson Flat by 1 p.m. And then I have that big downhill that when I did that section from Robinson Flat to Last Chance at the Western States Training Run, I did that section in under 3 hours, the 13, 14 miles or whatever it was. 16 miles, I think it was. I think I hit the half marathon in like 2.5 hours or something like that. So it's a very fast, runnable, downhill section. So I said to myself, I just need to get to there and then I can make up time and then just deal with the next part later, So, but unfortunately, the faster I was hiking, it hurt more going downhill than it did going uphill. And there was a big stretch downhill, which was so unfortunate because when you think of downhills, you automatically think that, oh, this is my opportunity to make up time.
Yeah.
But it hurt so much more. And then I was getting slower and slower. And then I kept looking at my watch and I was like, oh, shoot, I'm just getting slower and slower. The clock is ticking. I'm in pain, and I just kept saying to myself, all right, let's just give it one final push because this is Western States. I gotta do what I can. So I tried one last chance to make that run and it tweaked up to the point where my leg froze up. And I was like, okay, all right. So at that point, with only like maybe a 5K to the aid station, I had dropped to like a 35, 40 minute pace per mile. And then I knew it was game over when the sweepers caught up to me.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And, oh my God. And it's just one of those things where you don't, it was not what I had envisioned to happen. And to have it happen so early in a race too. I have never DNF'd at 100 miler that early before. my DNFs usually at 100 miler usually happens in the mile 80 range, It never happened that early before. So I was just so disappointed. in myself. And it's just like when you work so hard for something, and it's just not me, saying this. I mean, because I have results to back up how hard I've worked.
I know you have. I've watched you do the whole thing. Now I have a couple of questions for you.
Yeah.
When you got home, did you take your Garmin and throw it against the wall? I mean, I would have. I said, okay, that's it. I'm getting the Coros. That's it. I get it.
What I wanted to do to my Garmin was I did put it away, and I said to my Garmin, I talk to my electronic devices.
I did. Doesn't everybody? I mean, really, doesn't everybody?
I said to my Garmin, I was like, look, Garmin, I'm not mad at you. I think it wasn't your fault. I think it was the high altitude, the switchbacks, the satellite. So I'm not going to blame you, but I'm really sad right now. I'm going to take you off of my wrist right now. Okay. And I'm going to put you away in the dark. Okay.
You're nicer than I would have been to it. Boy, that would have made me mad. I tell you.
So
Garmin, hammer. See this hammer, Garmin? See this hammer?
So you can just imagine what it's like for me limping in. So there were 3 sweepers, and one of the sweepers had trekking poles, which really saved me, so I was able to use the trekking poles, and I limped my way into Duncan Canyon.
That's nice, actually.
Yeah. And that whole time I just have in my head, I had to keep saying to myself, how am I going to explain this to my crew, and how am I going to post this on social media? What the heck I'm going to do now? Are you ready for this, Martha?
I am.
Now this is where it's kind of like the plot twist in the oh my God.
Okay.
So Duncan Canyon, that aid station is mile 24.4.
Mm-hmm.
I got into Duncan Canyon, and that's where I officially DNF because I didn't make I timed out at Duncan Canyon. I looked at my watch. It said 24.3. So,
yeah.
So that's why it hurts so much, because I let it get to my head when I shouldn't have, because it all balanced out in the end. My Garmin was actually correct. It balanced itself out by the time I got to Duncan. Well, no, I'm just because once I got to
it balanced out, but it wasn't correct before, though.
Right. It wasn't. What I'm saying is that it balanced out.
Yeah.
So basically, once I got to Duncan Canyon, I was really back on track. Yeah. But by then it was too late because I let it get to me. So
yeah. Well, it's your first time. It's your first time, and it was like anything that you want, really more than anything in the world. Sometimes your first time isn't. Sometimes you have to do it more than once, right?
Right. Yeah. So I end up making it to Duncan Canyon. Okay. I was in a lot of pain. Mm-hmm. I got there. The aid station people had already packed everything up. Everyone's gone because it was like an hour after the cutoff.
Oh.
And it was so disappointing. My crew was there. They were awesome. And I had to get a ride to Forest Hill.
Mm-hmm.
And that was when it was good for me to have that, long period, before getting to Duncan Canyon, because the sweeper is a buddy of mine,
mm-hmm.
Martin Whitcomb. And it was great that he was the sweeper because I got to, really kind of let everything out, I just had, I was able to vent and just tell him, like, I worked so hard for this, it wasn't supposed to happen this way. I wasn't expecting to get injured, mathematically. I kept pushing and then I got injured. It hurt. But to be clear though, Martha, even if I weren't injured, the furthest I most likely would have gotten at Western States is probably to Devil's Thumb, like mile 49. Western States is hard.
Yeah,
It's
sounds
really
like it.
hard. And
Yeah.
I had not even entered the heat zone yet of Western
No.
States. So I know that would have slowed me down even further. So
Mhm.
realistically speaking, I knew that I mathematically could have duked it out, but I had fallen so far behind the cutoffs that I think realistically I wouldn't have made it past Devil's Thumb, realistically. But it would have been nice to have made it to like the later aid stations, to Robinson and then to Miller's Defeat and then Last Chance, because those aid stations was where the parties were, like all my friends were there, all this and all that. So I was able to have my vent session with Martin. And then by the time I made it into Duncan Canyon, I was at least very, kind of, what's the word? Calm, I guess, or just kind of, I wasn't like, as emotional at that point.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. So a buddy of mine, Jim McGill, real nice guy, gave me a ride to, Forest Hill, because that's where our meetup with the rest of my crew and pacers. And good Lord, that ride was like it felt, I think it was like an hour and a half to get. Western States is such a difficult race to crew at, because the aid stations are so freaking far apart.
Yeah.
So, and it's like 100+ degrees, and
it was horrible. The heat
was horrible.
The heat. Do you know? I mean, do you realize that 1/3 of the runners dropped out? 1/3.
I know.
See, that's what I thought got you was the heat, but that didn't get you at all. That's what I thought. So I'm glad you're telling the story.
Yeah, no, I didn't make it far enough to experience the heat.
sorry to laugh. But yeah,
that's okay. You can laugh. I can laugh about this now. I can't.
Good.
I mean, but I'll be honest with you. I didn't want to do this call when you invited me initially. And that's why I do apologize for not getting back to you. It took me like a week and a half to get back to you. No,
that's fine. I gave you time. I didn't push. Didn't want to be pushy or anything. I knew it would take you time to think about it, but I thought after a while that you might want to.
And I'm glad that I'm glad I'm doing this. But initially, when you invited me, that was the last thing I wanted to do. I didn't want to talk about this, because it's like nobody, DNFs suck,
Yeah, they
really
do.
Suck.
They do. Yeah,
but
they do.
Let me tell you something about DNFs here. So here's the thing. Let me tell you a little story about me and the DNF.
Okay.
Let's play the Price is Right, Martha. How many DNFs do you think I have?
Oh, I know you. Okay, I would say, I'm going to say 12.
So if this were the Price is Right, you'd still be in the game because you didn't overbid.
Okay.
I'll tell you. Okay, so here's the thing. Here's a little story I want to tell you. At my first 100-mile attempt, I DNF'd at mile 88. Now that was a heartbreaker. At my first Western States qualifier attempt, this was at Javelina. Yeah, Javelina 100 back in 2013. I dropped to the 100K because I couldn't, finish the 100-miler. At my second attempt at my Western States qualifier at Burning River in 2014, I got pulled from the course at mile 86.5 because I missed the cutoff by 12 minutes. Imagine how heartbreaking it is to get to mile 86.5. You only have basically a half marathon left and you miss it by 12 minutes. And the rest of the race is basically runnable, rolling hills. So all in all, I have a 10 and 22 record in 100 milers, meaning I have 32 attempts at the 100 miler.
Wow.
22 DNFs.
Wow.
I have 10 finishes. I only have, I know I shouldn't say only. I mean,
you shouldn't say only.
I shouldn't say that because it's a big deal just to finish one.
It's a big deal. But you know what this tells to me is that you don't give up. You don't give up.
Or maybe it tells you that I'm just that stupid. You know?
Well, you know what's that race that it took you 3 times to in the Midwest? Burning River. That's the one. It took you 3 times to finish, right?
Yeah.
See, you don't give up. That's why I love having you on here where we're talking about DNFs. You don't give up. You get a DNF. So now the big question, you're going to do Western States again next year, right?
Well, no, probably not. Most likely not, because I'm not that lucky.
Okay.
I'm not going to get into Western States on one ticket. I'm not.
You don't. Oh, that's right. You have to go in and go into the lottery again. Oh, that sucks. Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
It's not. You know.
Sorry.
Well, that's what makes the Western States so alluring. You know, it's like mystifying, I guess, because you can't just run it. Okay. You have to first.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you do. Yeah, that's true.
And then B, get chosen, by the lottery, you know, or by some other method,
I'm really amazed by what you went through in your training, just to get back into that. And the thing is, though, that you had support the whole way. And when you came back, everyone supported you on this. You know that, right?
I do. And that was, it was just, let me invite you into my brain so that you can
okay,
so you can fully understand, so you can visualize what I was feeling at the time. So I truly do appreciate the over the years I've been doing this running thing. I'm going into, I think, my 12th year. I started in 2009, so I'm in my 12th year of this running thing. And in the process of becoming a marathoner, endorphin dude, a trail runner, Western States, all these things, along the way, I became a public figure, which is something that's I like being a public figure because I like sharing my message. That someone who in their 30s who was diagnosed with, all these things, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, type 2 diabetes, all that, can change their life around by disciplining themselves. So as a public figure in running, that's kind of like my mission in life is I don't want to see anyone suffer. And I don't want them to think that if they are diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, that it's an automatic death sentence. So that's why I am very public about my story, about my life story, and how I turned it around and became a healthier human being. But I got to tell you, so I knew that I have a lot of followers who follow me over the years. I get a lot of private messages from people telling me that I've helped them to change their lifestyle. And it's such a rewarding feeling for me. So it was great having everybody support me and follow me. So when I finally DNF'd at Western States, now you gotta picture the scenario. What happened was that everyone who's following along online, I don't know if you followed using the app that they had, but if you DNF, it has a little stick figure sitting on a chair looking sad.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Oh.
So everyone's like messaging me, texting me. There's like, there's a little stick figure in a chair by your name. Is it really true? Is it real? So people are like messaging, but then I had no internet access. I'm out in the middle of high country. I had nothing. So so my crew didn't know where I was. Nobody knew where. All they knew is they saw that little sad stick figure sitting in the chair, you know? So when I finally was able to get, service, at, Forest Hill, I was able to post my, what happened. And, I was just, I wrote that post in a very kind of direct way. I just said, I wanted to let you all know that I DNF'd at Western States. It's not what I had planned on happening. This really stings. It is what it is. I was just very direct, and the outpour of support that I got, I think over all my social media, platforms, I'm talking Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all the social media platforms. It was like a couple of thousand, like maybe 10,000 messages, like likes, combining likes, emojis and all that, like over 10,000, messages to me. And do you know what it felt like? I'll tell you what it felt like. What it felt like was I was at my own funeral. And I was like, yeah, that's what it felt like. Reading everyone's comments, I was like, oh my God. I felt like I was laying there in my coffin, and that, everyone is watching me. They're at my funeral, but they don't know that I can hear and see everything, even though I'm dead in my coffin. And that's how it felt. I felt like every comment was like a eulogy, and it was just so sad. That's how I felt that day.
Yeah.
But it was just, but you also have to keep in mind that this is Western States. And and you know me well enough to know that I am not one to, I still had friends who were still in the race.
Yeah.
So I still wanted to support them. So we end up like cheering on runners at Forest Hill. And then later that night, I went down to the Rucky Chucky, the river. I volunteered. So for your listeners who may not know my history, I got into Western States through the designated runner ticket because I volunteered at the Mile 78 River Crossing Aid Station for the past 5 years. So I was I earned my spot on in Western States by volunteering for the past 5 years at the Rucky Chucky. So I wanted to go down to the Rucky Chucky to basically give a hug to all my Rucky Chucky partners down there, the aid station captains, and not just to see the volunteers down there that I've known for like the past 5 years, working with them every year at Western State, but I wanted to cheer on my friends who are going to cross the river as well. So, I said to myself, and I said to my crew, I said, okay, you guys, yes, I am absolutely devastated that I DNF'd at Western States, but all these other people are not DNFing yet, or not DNFing. So I need to get out there and I need to cheer on my friends, because these are all my friends.
Yep.
So that's what I did. The rest of the weekend, I made sure that I was able to, and it was also very therapeutic for me. It got my mind off of the, my DNF, because, I just because I DNF doesn't mean that, everyone has to, I guess what I'm saying is that, so what? I DNF. I still had friends running this race. I wanted to support them,
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. I think that was an honorable and awesome thing to do, because the race isn't over just because you're not in it. The race still goes on, and your friends are still there. So you got to support them for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it really did feel like my funeral on that Saturday afternoon.
Well, of course it did. But then later on, you realize that it's not. You realize that they're supporting you.
But I do got to tell you that after everything ended, when the race was over, I I don't know if you've noticed, but I've been absent from social media. I have
true.
not been able. The first week back from Western States was really hard because I'm so happy for all my friends who towed the line, who did the best they could, and especially to those who finished because they all worked their butts off for it. I am proud of everyone. But it's hard seeing all the posts, like the post Western States posts of like the buckles and everything. It was hard. So I had to, for my own mental health. Here's the funny thing. It's so timely because mental health in sports right now is a big topic. With Simone Biles, at the Olympics, and Naomi Osaka. Is it Osaka? Osaka, yeah. Naomi Osaka. So mental health is like one of those things that is very timely right now in sports. And for me, it was like I needed to step away from social media for my own mental health, because it was hard just seeing all the aftermath of Western States because I was dealing with my own DNF. And it wasn't just the DNF. When you DNF at any race, you go into it and you start analyzing, what did I do wrong? You start looking at your Strava data. You start looking at your elapsed time versus your moving time. You start nitpicking and meticulously dissecting every little thing of, and so that's what I was doing like afterward. And what really sucked was my birthday was 2 days after.
Oh gosh.
So it was like one of those birthdays where I'm just like, oh God, I don't really want to do this, So everyone's like wishing me happy birthday. And I was like, oh my God, this is awful. But I had to kind of take a break from social media. I'm still on my little break, I guess, because I just, I'm not ready to come back yet. I mean, I've been posting on Instagram, like, cause I'm still racing. So I'm posting things like that, but, it's funny because people have reached out to me because I have such a huge social media presence that when I kind of go AWOL, people get concerned. People are like, oh my God, are you alive? Yeah. So, but it's just, it's really interesting, bringing current events into this conversation. I keep thinking about like the Naomi Osakas and the and Simone Biles, and because we all, not just ultra runners, but everyone who does, and of course, what we do, we as in you and I, and as ultra runners, doesn't compare to what the elite Olympic athletes are doing, but you can draw comparisons, you can, because it's very similar, but for us on a, not as a high profile scale, but we do go through similar things, I mean, at Western States, I had to wrestle with the whole notion of, okay, do I risk really hurting myself or not, And at the end of the day, when I got so I work in a physical therapy. Oh, I work in a physical therapy clinic.
Yes, I do know. You work with magicians. They're wizards. They swear.
So, which is great for me because I was able to have one of my PTs look at my injury, and he flat out said to me, "It's like, Tony, you were just maybe 6-7 miles away from tearing something."
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I had strained my adductor, and he said that if I had tripped on another rock, or if I had just he was explaining to me that the problem was that because of my strained adductor during the run, I was beginning to overcompensate in other areas. So I was going to cause more damage to myself. So he basically said to me, it's like, Tony, you were really only about 6 or 7 miles away from, causing some damage, some serious damage. So, it's one of those things where I think to myself, if I were at mile 80 with 20 miles left, heck yeah, let's just run through the pain, So it's those things where you have to really think about that. I think a lot about Simone Biles and the twisties and how she explained it. And I'm thinking ultra runners go through that throughout every race. It's like you get to like mile 60 and it's like, oh my God, I just pull something here. Do I continue? Or, oh shoot, I'm peeing blood. No, let's just finish. I want that buckle. I mean, I know it's not the same, high profile level as the elites in the Olympic stage.
Well, no, but, and gymnasts go through lot of different things when they're children, so that's a whole different subject.
Yeah. So anyway, so I guess what I'm saying is that it's hard,
Yeah, it is hard.
And we all try to be ambassadors to our sport, and we do the best that we can. And I think what I did was just, I had to be true to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I just ended up just, it hurts that I DNF'd, and for me, the reason why it hurt so much, because it happened so early in the race. I felt that I truly, legitimately believed in myself. And I believed that I had every shot at finishing that race, because I had worked so hard and I really, truly believed I had it. And so when it all blew up like that, I felt like I was at my own funeral.
Well, hopefully, okay, I've spit it out, Martha. I'll edit some of this. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Any DNF helps us learn something about ourselves and grow. And
right.
Maybe that sounds a little Pollyannish, but it's true. We learn something about ourselves through I'm not going to say failure because it's not a failure, but through anything that doesn't turn out the way we want it to, we learn something from.
Right.
So, learn something from this and then go on to your next adventure, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And at the end of the day, I have to remind myself, I have to say to myself every day that, okay, Tony, you DNF'd that Western States. Okay, whatever. Look at it this way. You don't have to take insulin.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have to, you can get up every morning and walk, downstairs. You're not injured. Everything is fine, Yeah. And I have to remind myself that one race does not define who I am.
Yeah.
I mean, but it stings though, it does hurt. And every day, I mean, it's getting a little better now. It's been about a month now, but in the first 2 weeks after Western States, I was just like psychoanalyzing every little tidbit. But I mean, do you ever wonder, let me pose this question to you.
Okay.
So, do you ever wonder, and we may never know this, we just have to if we can just dive into the psyche of these professional athletes. Do you think Michelle Kwan, to this day, thinks to herself, I am the most decorated female figure skater, yet I have never won the Olympic gold medal. I lost to Tara Lipinski, that, a little 14-year-old out of nowhere from Sugar Land, Texas. And she triple lutz her way into the gold medal and I get silver. And then in Nagano, she gets the bronze. Or like Pete Sampras, there before Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal, and now Novak Djokovic, which is a completely different story now.
Or Lundqvist. Here's Henry Lundqvist, one of the greatest goalies of all time, for my New York Rangers. He won gold with Sweden in the Olympics, but he never got the Stanley Cup.
Right.
Probably, maybe he will with the Capitals. I hope not, but maybe he will. But he never did with the Rangers, who he signed with. They missed it. They missed their. Yeah. I'm sure they think about that. But
do you wonder if these people think about that?
Yeah, but that's also their job. But that's also their job too. True. I mean, I would, if it was my job, I would sleep over it. I think it's a different thing. I think I know it's this is our obsession, obviously, and I definitely think we lose sleep over it. But I think what we can do, and it's enough time passed. What did you learn from this, and what can you do to move forward? To maybe do better in your other races. Yeah. And what did you get out of it? And that's what you need to do. I don't race like you do. I don't enjoy racing like you do. Racing gives me great anxiety. It does. I really, because I will see how my new hip is. So we'll see how that is. But I've always been super slow. So I have big time race anxiety. I love going out running. Racing, I never enjoyed very much. So I never entered a lot of races. I only DNF'd in one race. And that was really, really harsh. And it hurt for a long time afterwards. And there were several things that went wrong in that race. Why I missed the halfway cutoff point by 20 minutes. Right. Several things went wrong. I had stomach issues, and we were attacked by an angry swarm of yellow jackets. Because the front runners had run away, and we had the back of the pack. They started attacking us, so we had to climb up this cliff to get away from them and back down onto the thing. And then at that point, I was wearing shoes that were half size too small, which I didn't know about. Which the last part of the race, my big toenails, my big feet on my toenails were hurt so bad that I could barely run. So. It was so painful. It was so painful. So wow. So I DNF'd in that race, but so that's really the only race that was going to be my first 50K, but I wound up getting a marathon out of it. Right. So that was my only DNF that I've ever had. But I was really sad about that for a long time because I get it. Yeah, I understand. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But getting back to what you're saying. What did you learn from this? And I think I'm glad that we decided to do this talk like 4 weeks after Western. Had we done this like 2 weeks ago, it would have been a completely different show, Yeah. But I think at the end of the day, I love racing. And I think at Western States, I got so caught up in the hoopla, and it stressed me out. Yeah. And I believe that if Western States, any other race, I would have been fine, because like when I run like an ITR race or like a coastal trail run, and I've run some really hard stuff, it's not like I run easy, all my races are like easy races. I've run some very challenging races that I'm able to finish because it wasn't like the stress of Western States. Like for instance, when I ran Formidable this year, Formidable it's a hard race. Yeah. Oh my God. It's like, it's a 50K, but there's like over 6,000 feet of elevation crammed into 31 miles. And it's just like endless climbs, this and that. And the cutoffs are really tight, but I didn't have that anxiety of like everybody watching, And so I think the next, I have not given up my Western States dreams. I have not given up on it at all. Good. Yeah, not at all. But realistically speaking, though, it probably will take me about 5 to 6 years to get back in, based on the lottery and stuff. It's a hard race to get into. It is really hard to get into, isn't it? Yeah. But the next time I do it, now that I've run Western States, attempted to run it, and now that I know, now that I've done it, one time, I know what I need to do to succeed the second time, you know?
Yeah.
So, and you know, there are people who have like 3, 4, 5 DNFs at Western States, you know, hard race, you know, and at the end of the day, you know, I like to challenge myself, you know, and so that's why I do it. And everyone knows that, you know, I work hard and I don't win every time, but I will always go back and, you know, learn from everything and try to do my best to succeed the next time.
Yeah, you do. So what's your next big race?
I don't know quite yet. Right now, okay, so right now, there's a goal that I'm trying to reach right now.
Okay.
And so basically, COVID kind of ruined a lot of my plans.
Yeah, it certainly ruined a lot of everyone's plans.
one of my my big plan for 2020, one of my goals was to hit my 200th marathon at the San Francisco Marathon last year, because the San Francisco Marathon was my first marathon. It was also my 100th marathon. So it would have been totally awesome to make San Francisco Marathon my 200th. So it would be my first, my 100th, my 200th. But then COVID-19 happened, and then it kind of ruined that goal. So anyway, so that goal is out the window. My secondary goal, or another goal that I have, which I am on track to doing, is that I am 5 half marathons away from hitting my 200th half marathon.
Wow.
So, yeah. So I'm currently at 195. So I would like to hit my 200th half marathon at the San Jose Rock and Roll Half Marathon, because that was my first half marathon that I ran back in 2009.
Nice.
And it would be kind of coming in full circle kind of thing for me. So that's kind of my plan right now. So I'm just doing half marathons right now and loving it, you know.
Are you good? Are you going to do it as Endorphin Dude?
I don't know.
You should. You should.
Maybe.
Put your cape on.
Maybe, you know. But then I haven't really thought about my 2022 schedule yet. But everything is really contingent. At the end of November or at the beginning of December is when the Western States lottery is going to happen. And it may happen that my name gets pulled with just one ticket. So if my name does get pulled for one ticket, then I have to kind of really figure out what my 2021-22 schedule looks like. But if I don't get into Western States in 2022, then I want to do what's called the fundreds, you know, the fun hundreds, you know. There are like 100 miles out there that are fun.
Oh yeah.
You know, like the loop course ones. There's one up in Washington that I've been eyeing for like years now. It's called the Pigtails Challenge.
Oh yeah, I've seen that one. That looks fun.
Have you seen the buckle for that? It's like,
it
has the 2 piggies on it. It's like it has the 1 and then the 2 piggies, you know, that looks like zeros, you know, so like 100. So I want a piggy buckle. And I actually reached out to the RD because I know the RD, and I was like, so what's the swag going to be? And, you know, and is it still going to be the piggy buckle? And he was like, Tony, we would love to have you. And I was like, I would like to be there, but I just have to wait until December to see if I get into the States or not, you know. But I want to do stuff like that. I want to go back to Jackpot in Las Vegas.
Looks fun. I'd like to do that.
Fun. I've done it like 3 times, you know. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I want to do like stress-free fun races, you know. I want to do Disney races and
I like timed races. I really like timed races a lot because then you can do whatever distance you want. It all depends on how my surgery goes, and then I can get back into running. I'd really like to do Jackpot I'd like to do when you're older, you can do this. I'd like to do the Grandmaster. Yeah.
In Arizona, right?
Yes. I want to do that.
Martha, I'm not far from there. I'm 2 years away from there.
Wow. See, I never would have guessed.
Because you have to be 50, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm only 2 years away.
Wow. See, that's amazing. You never age, Tony. You never age. I'd say you're 25. My goodness.
No, I just turned 48.
Wow. Well, that's amazing. Yeah. See, I don't think I'm going to make it this year, but in 2023, I probably have enough distance. I'd like to do. So I want to do a 50 mile or 100K somewhere.
Let's go together. Because in 2023, I'll be 50.
Yes. Yay. Let's do 50.
It. Yeah,
excellent.
Let's do it.
Yes.
Epic
okay.
road trip.
Yay. Okay. All right. Plan done. All right. Well, thank you very, very much. This is a little bit longer episode than usual, but that's okay because it's really important to cover DNFs. And I think you really covered it and what it feels like. And I think that's super, super important. And because everyone can relate to what you went through, really.
And thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting me, because I honestly, like I said earlier, I didn't want to do this. I really didn't want to do this.
I know.
But it was good for me. I'm glad I did it. It's very therapeutic. It was fun. I love talking to you.
I'm glad you did too. And we'll talk soon, okay?
Sounds good.
Okay, bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank you for coming on the show, Tony. I know it wasn't easy. I know it was a difficult decision, and it took a lot of courage to come on and talk about it. We don't like to talk about our DNFs. It's not fun to talk about the races that hurt us emotionally. It's not fun. I know. I hope it was cathartic a little bit to go over what happened and to talk about it a little bit. And we can move on and we can go on to other races because we have to. And I know Tony has. I know he's already run. He already did the Headlands 100 this weekend. I know he did great, so good for him. All right. That is that. And Western States was just a killer this year. But we also had another killer race that I have the totals on, and that will come up in Tales of the Trail. Okay, welcome to Tales of the Trail. This week I'm talking about Leadville 100 that happened this past week. It was another great race with excellent runners. This was a kind of a funny one because I don't know if you ever follow ultra running memes. They kept showing memes of Anton Krupika as Jesus Christ. It was really funny. It was just very, very funny memes. And I couldn't help but laugh every time they would have one come up. He finished third, though. He did okay. In the men's category, Adrian McDonald finished first with 16 hours, 18 minutes, and 19 seconds. Matt Flaherty finished 16 hours, 59 seconds, and 38 minutes. And Anton Krupika finished 17 hours, and 7 seconds, and 55 minutes. Oh, I said that wrong. I'm sorry. Anton Krupika finished 17 hours, 7 minutes, and 55 seconds. And the females, Annie Hughes, oh, I like her last name, finished 21 hours, 6 minutes, and 58 seconds. Genevieve Harrison finished second, 22 hours, 6 minutes, and 59 seconds. Wow, that's like an hour apart. Very good. Blake Wageman finished 22 hours, 25 minutes, and 20 seconds. Good going. What a great race. That is one of the prime races, and I did talk about that when I first started the podcast over 2 years ago. I first talked about Leadville with Brian Burke in episode 6, if you remember. So you can go back and check that episode out. But please forgive me. That was one of the first episodes I ever did. Kind of awkward. So that is Tales of the Trail this week. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Tony. You are an awesome, awesome runner, a great friend, and just such a cool person. You got to check him out. Endorphin Dude. Have to check him out, Tony Nguyen. He's just amazing. He just keeps going no matter what. That is it. Check out the website, martharunstheworld.com, for all the information and everything about the podcast. Please donate to Patreon. There's a little button there. You can donate every month. Give a couple bucks or $5 or $10. It really helps. You get extra episodes. I have 29 extra episodes on Patreon that will never be heard anyplace else. So you can hear them if you are a Patreon patron. Really, they are free. You could also get swag if you are a Patreon patron that other people do not get. So give. And if you want to email me, you can email me if you have any comments, questions, or suggestions for future shows at martharunstheworld@gmail.com. And until next week, let's tie up our shoelaces and go for a run.